You know why history class was so boring in school? Because it was all a bunch of fucking lies. Tonight on Deep Fat Fried, these are 5 historical lies that your dumbass probably believes.
Deep Fat Fried!
Idiots.
Dumb.
Fucking dumb. Bunch of friggin' idiots out there. You know what I'm saying?
Me personally, I never believe anything in school.
I don't believe anything that I'm told, so I never get caught being wrong about anything. I just
try it.
Amen. And even if you are, it's like, whatever. I was told that, so it's not
told
that. So, like, what am I supposed to do?
Can't do nothing about it. What you want, bitch?
So let's jump right into these. I hate these numbered minisodes because I know I got to get through them all.
Stop.
Ricky Ticky. So you guys have all heard the, people used to drink a lot of beer back in medieval times because it was the safest way to drink the water, right?
Yeah, I think I've pushed that one out there into the zeitgeist.
Because they boiled the water, right? They boil it. They had this whole process of dealing with it. So
there was this idea that, in medieval times specifically, people drank a lot of alcohol and beer and wine because that was really the only way to ensure that the water was purified. And, when you first look at it, it seems plausible. It almost makes sense. I've seen the theory extended to say that the Enlightenment era happened because they switched from brewing ale to boiling water into coffee. It sounds interesting, seems plausible because they didn't understand much about sanitation, but it's just flat out untrue and wrong. It was food historian and photographer Jim Chevalier who took another look at some of the writings of medieval Europe, and even further back in ancient history. What he found was the idea that drinking beer and wine as a substitute for water is a fairly modern idea. In Misconceptions About the Middle Ages, Stephen Harris and Byron L. Grigsby write, "The myth of constant beer drinking is false. Water was available to drink in many forms, rivers, rainwater, melted snow, was often used to dilute wine." So yeah, if they believed that drinking wine was the way to protect yourself from sickness from water, why did they really routinely pour water into their wine? You know what I mean?
I mean, of course.
Wine's too strong. Put a little water in it.
I mean, you need water to live, so it makes sense. Right. It's like you would have to have access to fresh water.
Yep. This is an ancient public water fountain. There's very good reason why the medieval forerunners of these modern capitals were sited near water supplies. As the 15th century architect Leon Battista Alberti noted, a city required a large amount of water, not only for drinking, but for washing, for gardens, tanners, and fullers, and drains, and in case of sudden outbreak of fire, the best should be reserved for drinking, and remainder distributed according to need. Wait a minute. What?
I'm sorry.
Insane.
The last part seemed a little
according
wacky.
to communist, or distributed according to money. How much money you got?
According to those with wealth.
The best water goes to you. I mean, they did have definitely classes back then, and the upper classes did get the best stuff. But when it came to stuff like water, a little bit more reasonable than actually modern day humans.
One would think. They even understood what pollution was in the Middle Ages, contrary to popular belief that they were just horrible and filthy. Now, some parts of medieval life were undeniably filthy, but this idea that they were just horrible, filthy people that had no concept of what they were doing, they knew what pollution was. There's a Bavarian law, for example, circa about the 8th century, says if someone pollutes or stains a fountain with any filth, they are to clean it so there is no sign of pollution and pay 6 souls, and goes on. You know what I mean? So
fuck, dude.
They had you get caught littering, you get fucked up. You fucking pollute a water supply. It's your ass that's got to fucking scoop the turd out and scoop all the water out until it's clean.
The penalty, though, 6 souls, dude. You have to fucking literally kill 6 people and sacrifice them to the water fountain. I mean,
that's got to give them to the water god.
That's a little steep.
That is probably the coolest name for a currency that I've heard. It's spelled like soul, the sun, but still.
Yeah.
I never heard of Bavarian currency. If it was a crime to pollute water, they surely understood that the tainted water was unhealthy. Thus, they knew what clean water was and wasn't. The benefits from drinking water from a good source are often noted in medieval.
This dude's brain is fucking huge.
Well,
Look at his fucking. That's like a 7 head.
He was drinking clean water.
Well, this is Paul of Vagina, dude, and like he's another Paul. So of course he's got like, look at my forehead.
Yeah, that's true. You Pauls all have big foreheads.
Look, I'll even make the face. We Pauls all look the same. Look, I'll turn even. Like what? Look.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's uncanny.
Fair enough.
See?
He's even got the little thing in the middle. Like
they have the
line.
nose too. Look at the nose.
Yeah.
Same fucking nose, same
Pretty fucking
eyes,
similar.
big giant forehead, crease in the middle. That I mean, it just
Wow.
it's like, look, I don't want to start a whole fucking war in the comment section and shit, but it's just because people that are named Paul are made better than the rest of humans. I have like, you've got like normal human brains, and then I've got like an extra 2/3 of brain tucked up in here.
Yeah, you got like a triple decker brain going on.
You know, that's why everybody named Paul becomes famous and, you know, saves part of the world or whatever.
Yeah.
So this was a Byzantine physician, Paul of Agina, or Agina. For example, he wrote of all things, water is of most use in every mode of regimen. It is necessary to know that the best water is devoid of quality as regards to taste and smell. It's most pleasant to drink and pure to the sight, and when it passes through the stomach quickly, one cannot find a better drink.
Insanity.
So there was an idea, you know, there's a lot of ideas that float around that fucking ancient people didn't know any better or whatever. They knew how to find fucking clean water, and they knew how to make sure that their water was at least reasonably fucking clean. Like the same thing applies today. If you go into a house and assume it's got clean water and you bring it up to take a sip and it smells like sulfur or fucking like ass or something, you're not gonna drink it, right?
Yeah, like, yeah,
Fuck
never mind.
no.
Don't want this water.
They had the same fucking ability to discern bullshit from truth.
Nonsense. They were primitives. They knew nothing.
What many did say, and with reason, because they're kind of right, is that water is not as nutritious as wine, and so wine was more appropriate for health overall. Some important figures of the time wrote, if water was more appropriate for quenching thirst, wine was a more appropriate basis for a healthy regimen. But saying that, as is still true, wine is more nutritious than water is not in the least to say that water caused disease. It makes no sense to recommend wine for nutrition, as calories were harder to come by at the time. So, of course, you know what I mean? A lot of people took that and ran with it. Like people writing like, yes, water is good for quenching thirst, but wine is good for the constitution. And like in moderation, that's true. You know what I mean?
Right. And I mean, like you said, I mean, like way harder to reach your daily calories at this time. So if you could get some from wine, you know.
Yeah, look at these peasants here. None of them look really fat.
None of them are fat.
Yeah, they need some wine.
As for drinking, increased drinking in more modern times, beer drinking increased in the 19th century, especially in the United States, not due to dirty water in the cities, but largely because beer was shit dirt cheap. Like breweries were a dime a dozen. The raw, vegetable matter and shit, hops and barley needed for it was just like America was just overcome.
Chock full, basically.
Yeah. And so there was just like a huge surplus of these things, and beer was
real supply.
super. It was a dirt cheap way to get drunk. That's why it became popular. So
that's by the way, why it's still fairly popular, because you can still get pretty cheap fucking beer.
True that.
Yeah, you can.
And malt liquor as well. So a number of factors led to the explosion of alcohol consumption in the early 1800s. First, the British halted their participation in the American molasses and rum trade, objecting to its connections with slavery. I mean, pish posh, you know what I mean?
Pussies.
Get over it and just drink our rum. Come on. While the federal government also began to tax rum in the 1790s, at the same time, the settlement of so-called Corn Belt, the so-called Corn Belt in the Midwest, created huge new supplies of corn, which was cheaper and more profitable to convert into whiskey than it was to transport great distances without spoilage. Thus, Rohrbaugh notes, Western farmers could make no profit shipping corn overland to Eastern markets, so they distilled it into liquid assets. So by the 1820s, whiskey sold for 25 cents a gallon, making it cheaper than beer, wine, coffee, tea, or milk.
Damn, dude.
Nice.
So that's
Everyone
why people
fucking
drank
whiskey.
more, because like there was just so much of the raw materials needed to make this shit that it was so cheap to make and cheap to sell that people just drank tons of it.
I mean, it's still a principle you use in business today. It's like, you know, they grow potatoes or they grow corn and they turn it into secondary products to sell it to people for a higher price. So in just doing that, but just in the 18th century.
Yeah. So have you ever heard this one? Well, if you think people stink now, if you were to go back in a time machine to medieval Europe, you would smell the stench of a true unwashed mass, because they hardly ever bathed back then.
Dude, he stinks. He stinks. He just picked his fucking nose even.
That is true. He's digging around in his nose all the time. Dude, he was trying to wipe a snooger on you, dude.
I'm fucking trying to put a fucking booger on me, bitch.
Scotty knows the fucking maneuver, dude. He grabs straight for the collarbone, and TJ turns into a complete, like, he goes into the fetal position.
But don't wipe no fucking booger on me, dude.
I don't put up with that shit either.
Get
Look,
that
he's
nasty.
flicking it too.
You're about to get it again. You want it
You're
again?
gonna get the collarbone again, TJ. Look at him.
Do it one more time. See what happens, TJ.
So another common myth about he's gonna do it. Another common myth about people in the past is that they bathed significantly less than we do today. A common trivia soundbite you'll hear is that during the Middle Ages, people only bathed once a year. This myth persists, albeit in a less extreme form, all the way up until around the 20th century, when indoor plumbing was mostly perfected. This infrequent bathing myth, fortunately, is just a misinterpretation of semantics. Bathing, strictly speaking, involves submerging yourself in water. However, there are tons of other ways to wash yourself, such as using a sponge and a bucket. Plumbing didn't need to exist back then as it does today, so it was quite tedious to fill up and heat an entire bathtub. Bathing like we do today was considered to be kind of a privilege back in the day.
But they would just get a bucket of water and be like, all right, time to bathe. And they would like
sponge
wipe
themselves off and scrub.
Yeah.
And like, to be quite honest with you, this is the way that a lot of people still wash themselves to this day. Like in the global south and the third world and places where indoor plumbing is considered to be a luxury still. So this idea that they were just like unwashed and filthy and disgusting, just completely wrong. Not only did the ancients bathe and wash themselves more than we generally think, some cultures built elaborate and extensive aqueducts and plumbing systems in order to bring enough fresh water to cities and towns. So bathing, therefore, was a major public concern. Lots of resources were employed to make it happen. Ancient Greeks washed daily with wash basins, foot baths, and even small bathtubs. Larger baths, which were sometimes communal, were sometimes used as long as 2000 BC ago. So the Romans used similar receptacles to bathe, but built even larger and more complex public baths.
Yeah, like the baths of Caracalla, like their baths were pretty disgusting though, because a lot of people bathed in them, but they did bathe.
Right. They weren't as disgusting as people think. They actually were tied into plumbing and were routinely drained and refilled.
I've seen other research on that, so that's the only thing I would say about that.
The Romans, so pictured as one Roman communal bath. I mean, think about it though, Scotty. Do you think people would get off in some tragic, stinky, disgusting brown duty water? I mean, they had to have.
I mean, I think it was replenished at some points, yes, but I think that definitely. I mean, like there was the water in contemporary accounts, or as contemporary as we get, do speak about the water kind of be nasty after a bunch of people.
I mean, I'm sure after a whole ass day, but same thing. Could be
you
said
still
for
hear that. You even hear that today with regular baths, though. Like,
of course,
be like, oh, I don't like baths because you're just like you're sitting in your own dirty water after a point. Yeah, but that water's dirty because that's no longer on me.
Yeah,
so true.
So, but people were definitely cleaner then. I mean, yeah, there's no denying that when you had access to that, you're going to be cleaner.
At least cleaner than we give them credit for.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, because even if the water is not optimally clean, like when you get in that water dirty, you come out cleaner than.
But
you
considering the
fucking were.
time period, that's a wondrous. I mean, the baths of
Sure.
Rome and other places are just wonderful. I mean, you can consider like the architecture and everything else.
I mean, yeah, look at
Absolutely.
this; it's fucking gorgeous. So,
Further, they constructed extensive aqueduct and piping systems that brought fresh water into the cities and even into individual houses and bathhouses. Some of these piping systems even include braziers to heat the water before it entered the house. Of course, these braziers required a lot of work to set up and keep going, so it usually wasn't an everyday affair. It was reserved for rich people and upscale bath joints. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
sure.
So
Makes sense.
bathing
That's nice,
in medieval Europe gradually changed from a public affair to a private affair. In the early Middle Ages, public bathing was the norm, usually taking place in these central kind of bathhouse places. Gradually, though, the church frowned upon public nudity, and many public bathhouses started to close. Bathing was moved to the private home. Wealthy people were able to devote time and trouble to immerse themselves in specially constructed baths, whereas most other people satisfied themselves with extensive washing from basins and only bathed like rich people did in rivers or communal baths every few weeks. So it was true that people in medieval times could not afford to submerge themselves to the extent that most of us can today. Obviously, it does not require submersion in water to clean yourself. And people would go get a basin of water from the river, scrub until the water was dirty, go get another basin, scrub themselves again until they felt like they were clean. And so people in the Middle Ages probably were under the same social pressures that we were, not to reek like fucking horrible, stinking ape gorillas. You know what I mean? So, yeah. There's really no anecdotal evidence or otherwise to insinuate, at least historically, that people stunk any worse back in the day than we do today.
Yeah, or if they did, it was exaggerated.
I mean, obviously they probably smell. I mean, like in some respects, like they didn't have the same dental hygiene and other stuff.
Well, yeah, but that's because they didn't have access to it. But as far as like not wanting to walk around stinking and
oh no, I mean, I've never believed that.
There's
for
kind of an
second.
idea around that, like people back then just didn't care about this at all, and it was just like not even
That seems
a thing.
absurd.
And obviously, like they went to lengths to keep themselves clean.
Well, like
Sure.
if you see cultures in history as like is building on a foundation, why do we care much about bathing so much? If our ancestors are just never given a shit, or an ancient civilization not giving a shit, we probably wouldn't give a shit now. So
Right.
there's a good reason why we do.
There's a little wash basin here.
So Renaissance and Reformation thinking in Europe gradually stressed increased hygiene, both in terms of the body and clothes.
Shocking.
Cleanliness came to be seen as an
picture out of
expression of the
Rush,
purity of the
actually.
soul. Medical science also began to emphasize the cleanliness in general in order to keep away from sickness and disease, obviously correctly.
Yes.
Washing visible parts of the body became even more important, and more frequent bathing became the norm. Private baths at home now completely replaced the communal baths of the past. Poor people often shared bathtubs among families rather than each family having to buy their own. Pictured here is a vintage industrialized galvanized bathtub and toilet.
Damn, dude.
Okay.
All in one.
Yep.
Yeah. Just don't poop in the wrong hole.
Right.
I guess not, right?
Just like,
But
don't get in the bathtub and shit. Just like today, habits varied. Some people washed daily and others did not. Some washed hands and face daily. Others took sponge bath daily. Inventories and photographs commonly show a wash stand in bed chambers like this here, where people would scrub their bodies in the mornings with a pitcher of water and, come back and forth as needed out the day to bathe different parts of their body. People washed as they stood or sat in a small tin tub with a few inches of water, or stood on a floor cloth beside the wash basin. And there are some written references to bathing. In 18th century, William Byrd II wrote in his book, History of the Dividing Line, that he was relieved to bathe after several days in the wilderness. Dr. Benjamin Rush of Philadelphia was writing about soldiers, but his recommendations could have applied to any American when he said they should wash their hands and face at least once every day, and their whole body twice or three times a week, especially in the summer. So this is pretty much how we bathe today. Your average person does not take a full fucking bath or shower every single day. Some people do. Some people
you do,
don't.
though, Paul.
Huh?
Don't you? You usually do.
I usually do. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I usually do as well. I don't wash my hair every day, but I definitely take a shower almost every day.
I had to learn that, but yeah, I don't wash my hair, but yeah, pretty much every day.
I am really more of the 2 or 3 times a week kind of person.
That's a vast improvement. When TJ was,
because when I was younger,
oh my god, dude, Paul,
I was like,
when TJ would actually take a shower
about the stench, then I'll do it.
I know we got other ones to go, but when TJ would take a shower, I basically would call it like defunkification because like the bathroom would smell like a wet TJ dog. And it just felt like there's like a layer of grime that just came off. Like TJ literally is the guy that went to a dermatologist, like, what's on my skin? He's like, dirt. How do you get it off? Rubbing alcohol.
Oh, Jesus, TJ.
So TJ, you used to fucking fall back on the excuse that people back then were dirty, but it's actually just you. You're just a dirty fuck.
Yeah. You're actually dirtier than a medieval peasant.
Well, not anymore. Now
you used to be.
You used to be.
But yeah, as a teenager, I definitely was. Yeah, for sure.
So here's another one. People think that people in the medieval ages widely believed in a flat Earth.
Oh my God, this one.
So Columbus. Hold on one second here. I'm trying to figure out if I'm dizzy or if we're having an earthquake.
It looks like things are shaking.
Very strange.
Your mic is shaking a little.
Yeah, it's a strange feeling.
I don't know if that's ambience in the room or what.
The spirits.
Whoa. All right. So let's just plow
the Earth
ahead.
is like, I am flat. You have angered,
dude. You angered the Earth, Paul. You want to talk shit on the Earth? Like everyone knows the Earth's not flat. Maybe it is. Sorry.
Sir, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this version of history. Chris Columbus was brave for sailing to the New World because everyone believed that the Earth was flat and that he would probably fall off the edge, right?
Yeah.
You've heard this?
Yeah,
of course.
There are numerous inaccuracies about Christopher Columbus that are commonly believed and unfortunately taught despite contradictory evidence in school. But today we're just going to focus on one. The idea that most people thought the Earth was flat at the time of Columbus is completely wrong. Columbus and many, if not most, medieval people knew the Earth was round. By the Middle Ages, there was a widespread belief amongst the educated that the Earth was a globe. Columbus did face opposition on his voyage, but not from people who thought he'd drop off the edge of the world. More people predicted it was too small a globe and that he'd run out of supplies before he made it around to Asia. So it was not the edges of the world people feared, but the world being too big and round for them to cross with technology available. So there were people out there that just thought, like, you're a madman, you're going to sail out into the middle of the endless ocean and never reach your goal because there's no way we can carry that many supplies, and you're a fool, and blah, blah, blah. But that's really what it was about. People thought the world was either way bigger or way smaller than he thought it was, and that was a matter of some debate at the time.
Which makes sense, yeah.
This idea of a spherical Earth dates all the way back to ancient Greece, where many philosophers wrote about it. Pythagoras is often credited with being the first to posit the idea in the 6th century. So this is not exactly like some, brand new idea or some shit.
It's like Eratosthenes or something. I forget his name. Was a guy ancient Greek that came up with a calculation for the circumference of the Earth.
Eratosthenes, yeah.
Eratosthenes, yes, thank you. Yeah, it was well known.
There was much discussion about which competing size theory was correct and whether people lived on the other side of the world. So they would try and figure out, so if we go all the way to the Byzantine Empire, is that the other side of the world?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Or if we go to China, is that the other side of the world? There were the arguments about this, and they didn't have the ability to measure as accurately as we do. Certainly not from orbit, No,
yeah.
So with extraordinarily few exceptions, no educated person in the history of Western civilization from the 3rd century BC onward believed that the Earth was flat. Historian Jeffrey Burton Russell wrote in 1997. So.
But strangely enough, we do have people today that think the Earth is
because
flat.
what the Bible say, TJ, the four corners of the earth.
We have people today who are reasonably well-educated people, or should be anyway, or have access to it, that nonetheless believe that the Earth is flat.
Like a rounded plane or something is what they say, I think.
Around.
Well, a lot of them think that we're a flat disc surrounded by a wall of ice.
That's
the ice
pictured here.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because we're a little behind where I thought we would be. But suffice it to say, don't go around telling everybody that people believed the world was flat back in the medieval ages, because it just wasn't.
They didn't.
Didn't do it.
Didn't do it.
So let's talk about some American historical myths. This one's a little bit of a technicality, but you'll catch most people with it. Who was the first president of the United States, guys?
George Washington.
Well, no.
No!
Bullshit, dude. I know what I was taught in school, Paul. You're a damn liar.
Lies!
Episode is a lie.
During
Lie
the
upon
American
lie
Revolution,
upon lie.
the Continental Congress, or the United States Congress, assembled, chose Peyton Randolph as the first president.
Our first president was named Peyton?
Ugh.
Yep.
No!
No wonder we're doomed to fail.
No!
So under Randolph, one of their first moves was to create the Continental Army in defense against Britain, appointing Washington as its commander. So this is actually the first president of the United States. Peyton
Damn.
Randolph.
I don't believe it.
And
I mean, look
actually,
look at his double chin, dude.
Too fat.
He's got a butt chin and a double chin. But you know what? He does look like he'd chow down on a fucking apple pie. And what's more American than that, you know?
True.
I love how his big fat face comes out of a little scrawny neck as well.
So he was he actually, Washington wasn't even the second president of the United States. Randolph was succeeded by John Hancock in 1781, who presided over independence from Great Britain. After Washington defeated the British at the Battle of Yorktown, Hancock sent him a note of congratulations. Washington's reply was addressed to the President of the United States. So, 8 years later, as a revered war hero, Washington himself became America's first popularly elected president, but strictly speaking, the 15th president.
15th, man.
So that sounds a little less impressive.
Yeah, George Washington, 15th president.
If you look at these technicalities, these fake presidents, then sure.
Look how
But
quickly
the real president, George Washington.
Look how quickly we went through presidents back when we could just get rid of one that didn't work, like quickly and
Yeah,
expediently.
you suck. Next.
Next. It's like we could just swipe through them. Like, nope.
I'm gonna have to swipe right on the president. Sorry.
But now, if you fucking get a shitty president, you're stuck for 4 years.
So now,
You know?
like, I gave you some ammo. If you want to one up somebody at a party or something, just be like,
Yeah.
who's the first president? Be like
was-
George Washington. Be like, no,
Bitch.
Peyton Randolph.
Peyton
Stupid
Randolph.
bitch. Peyton Randolph is the
Moron.
first president, you stupid fuck.
And then they'll be like, bullshit. Oh, and then they'll go look it up and they'll find out that you're right. And then they'll have to suck your dick or give you money or whatever.
Yeah,
it is.
look it up. Look it up, stupid. Look up Peyton Randolph, stupid ass motherfucker. Yeah, you see.
Last but not least, let's cover probably the most common myth on the list: the 4th of July.
Independence Day.
Independence Day, the day that United States declared independence from the British Empire.
Also, the day we defeated the aliens.
Look, beautiful day.
With the help of Bill Pullman in his epic speech. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Unfortunately, we're celebrating 2 days late.
Oops.
What?
The Continental
July 2nd?
Congress voted for independence and drafted the Declaration of Independence, and it went into effect on the 2nd of July. There was a revision to it that was approved on the 4th. It was read aloud for the first time on the 8th, and the final document wasn't even signed until August 3rd. So there you go. August 2nd. So August 2nd doesn't sound anywhere near as cool as the 4th of July for some reason.
The 2nd of August. It's the 2nd of August, everybody. Let's.
Look, I know American history, and all we've learned here tonight is a bunch of damn lies.
Lies.
Independence Day is the 4th of July. It's some fancy episode, some fancy California liberal like Paul ain't gonna tell me otherwise.
John Adams, our second president, if you believe, you know what I mean.
The lies.
The lies. Or our 16th president, if you know the truth, was convinced that July 2nd would become the annual holiday. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shoes, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other from this time forward forevermore. But problem is he wrote that about July 2nd.
Well, you know, whatever.
Close.
2 days off. What are you going to do?
Yeah, why don't we just go back and edit that?
I mean,
like,
just think about it.
July 4th. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like July 4th just sounds better. 4th of July sounds good.
Let's celebrate on the 2nd of
sounds
July.
good.
The 2nd of
2nd
July.
of July. July 2nd doesn't sound as good.
Well, I got to agree.
It just doesn't have the ring to it, man.
I guess let us know in the comments how many of these you knew beforehand or how many I got you on. And
You know, they're
going to
lie and say that they knew all this shit.
I
right?
actually,
know.
Paul, did not believe a single one of these ridiculous myths. Nice try,
And then a lot of people are going to argue with you. It's like, actually, this myth was true.
Sure.
people did
Blah, blah,
believe
blah,
the Earth
blah,
was
blah.
flat. Oh, see here.
They're going to act like history is something that's like agreed upon because it's not.
It isn't. It clearly
So.
isn't. So that's that. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Big Fat Pride.